said, he wasn't familiar with the macro function on this Olympus digital camera. And I was, and I said I'd be happy to take the pictures.
And when you climb the ladder, the videotape shows you placing your hands on the box as well and moving it. Why did you move the spy camera?
For the same presumable reason he did, in order to get a straight-on picture of the camera from, as many sides of it as possible, just to clearly show what it was.
Mr. Howie, I'm not sure I can wait for you to get around to this. But will somebody please either have him step down and draw for me, or explain to me exactly where this spy camera and what's going on here?
Yes, Your Honor. Also, if I may take Exhibit 7, I'll utilize that. Mr. Minton, I'm going to be showing you, I believe that's Petitioner's Exhibit 7. And I'll ask you to point out to Judge Pennick where the junction box is now in that picture, as depicted in the picture.
Let Mr. Pope come up here too, so he can see what's going on if we're going to do this up here.
Just point out where the junction box is now in that picture.
Yeah. This, to my recollection from the day of this event, is not where the junction box was, but this is the junction box in question here.
You, using your pen, please point out to Judge Pennick where the junction box was when you were actually looking at it and manipulating it.
Over onto the rat bait building. You see that probably right onto the, I assume they didn't move it up or down. I would think that it was on top of the brick, the first brick.
Now, concerning that junction box, was it fully over against the brick face of the rat bait building, or partially? How would you describe that?
From my recollection, it was fully on the rat bait building and painted the same color as the rat bait building.
The bracket that you described that the kind was painted on, where was that attached?
Well, it's very hard to I'm not sure from this picture, but because, as I said, the camera appears to have been moved back, but the bracket would have been going in a sort of making a 90-degree turn up towards the Clearwater Bank building out of the back of this. When I say back, I mean the back side of this.
So you're trying to tell me that inside that box looks like an electrical conduit box?
Yes.
That there was a camera in there?
Two
cameras in there?
Yes.
In that thing? Okay.
Inside it.
I see, sir. Okay.
Facing, sorry, I think I turned this off.
Okay.
Yes, the two cameras are facing over the rat bait building towards the Police and Affairs and Trust.
I see. Okay.
I can take that exhibit back from you then. By the way, Mr. Minton, an exhibit was entered by Mr. Merrick earlier in his hearing of a junction box. Did you have an opportunity to look at that junction box at that time?
I have seen the junction box, yes.
Does that junction box fairly accurately represent the size of the junction box that you were dealing with here?
It does.
Now, at one point, by the way, did you have any trouble moving this camera?
No, it rotated on that bar,
Was there
very
any,
easily.
Was there any resistance to it at all when you moved it?
None whatsoever.
When you did move it, did you hear anything snap or break?
No.
Now, the tape shows you at one point moving the ladder 2 feet further south. Why did you do that?
To get pictures from the other side of it.
Do you recall how many photos you took of the spy camera?
I think there were 9 in all. A few of which is still out of focus, even with the macro thing. They weren't of any use.
And you had an opportunity to see these pictures after they were printed, didn't you?
I saw them on the computer. I didn't actually see them printed until some time later.
And these are the photographs that were in fact filed with the court. Were these the photographs that you took that day?
Yes.
Now, what did you do with the spy camera when you were finished?
back up against the wall where it was.
And did you return it to precisely the same original position as it was before you and Mr. Mack started?
Absolutely. At no time did we, poke into the holes where the lenses of the cameras were. It was just, if we wanted to be destructive of the camera, it would have been easy to just slap it back over to the wall.
More specifically, you've heard the allegation during this hearing that the camera was out of focus once you were finished with it. Do you know of anything that you or Mr. Merritt did to throw off the focus of the camera?
Absolutely not. The only thing that could have changed the focus was moving the camera back a few inches, as it appears to have been moved back once they re-technically oriented it.
You're saying moved as it's indicated in Exhibit 7 that I just showed?
Correct.
Now, did you touch any part of this junction box or spy camera other than the outside of the junction box that day?
No.
The allegation was that both you and Mr. Merritt grabbed and twisted the camera, and from that I'm quoting from the Board of Show Cause. How would you characterize how you and Mr. Merritt handled this camera?
Carefully. Carefully moved it, and carefully moved it back.
Now, at any time during the entire incident, did you see anyone that you recognized as being a member of the Church of Scientology, or who advised you that they were a member of Church of Scientology, who came within 10 feet of your position that day?
No.
Did anyone complain out loud in your presence that you or Mr. Merritt were in their way or blocking the path?
No.
Concerning the bread delivery, which is depicted on the videotape, did you hear anyone complain that you or Mr. Merritt were in the way of the bread delivery?
No.
And was the bread delivery, in fact, able to go through the door while you were on the ladder? Or do you know?
Yes, the time that I really noticed the bread delivery at all was when the policeman came over. Up until that time, I was focused on, my attention was focused on taking the pictures of the camera, and I had previously observed the bread delivery, but when the policeman came and I stopped for a second to talk to him, I saw the bread delivery in process.
Did you see them have any trouble getting in and out of the door?
No.
Now, during any part of this incident that you've described, did you or Mr. Merritt harass or do violence to any member of the Church of Scientology?
No, we did not.
Did either of you do any picketing during this incident?
No.
And you mentioned the police officer that came up. That's the police officer who's depicted in the video?
Yes, it is.
Did the police officer who came up to you ever tell you to stop doing what you were doing and to leave?
No, absolutely not.
What did the officer say to you while you and Mr. Merritt were there?
His first question was, good morning, what are you guys doing? And I said, we're taking pictures of this spy camera. And he said, okay, fine. He said, do you mind if I just stay here and watch until you're finished? I said, no, please go ahead.
During the entire time the officer was there, did he ever tell you to stop, or did he ever tell you to leave?
No, he did not.
I want to move on to the matter alleged in the order to show cause dated January 10th, 2001, specifically paragraph 1B on page 2. This is the incident involving the private investigator, Lindsay Colton.
Okay, hold it right there. Just a minute, I'm going to get caught up with you, okay, please? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Move it, Will. And I'm supposed to move it, Will. Just let me get my notes caught up, please. take a break?
No,
You got water there? Is there
I
water?
do have some water. Yeah, I'm fine. I wouldn't mind that if you would like
I
to.
have a cough drop.
Right. I'm actually
That's
sucking
fine.
on one as we're speaking, so.
That's fine.
Just give me that to you
Thanks.
for purposes of identification only.
Say, I'm sorry, I missed that. What'd you
I'm
say?
I'm giving it to him for purposes of identification only.
It's a Hall's cough drop, sorry.
Is that on, certified wrapper? Let's go ahead.
There's going to be a hearsay objection on it.
Strike it.
Concerning the incident on January 5th involving private investigator Lindsay Fulton, you've seen the videotape of this, correct?
Yes, I have.
And I want to ask you about the incident as depicted on the videotape. When this incident first started, did you see both Lindsay Fulton and the man behind her with the video camera?
Yes, I did.
And did you recognize them from anywhere?
Yes, Lindsay Colton has numerous times been out in front of the Fort Harrison Hotel together with the man who had the video camera, who is, in fact, I believe, her husband. I think she's told that to some people inside at least some fears of trust. I have no reason to disbelieve it. And they are a team of private investigators who have done some considerable work for Scientology over the last 6 or 8 months.
Now, have you ever had a confrontation with either of them? And by confrontation, words or any degree of hostility between you and Lindsay Fulton?
Yes, with both her and her husband in front of the Fort Harrison Hotel. They've been, her husband particularly was part of this human chain that was put up to when they were rotating vans and rotating people out of the front of the Fort Harrison to make it look like we were out there blocking their traffic, where in fact it was the same people coming in and out of the vans, all of the same vans, and being brought back and then going in and then coming back out. Colton, the man Colton, was part of that human chain that sometimes Lindsay Colton, his wife, was. They had been out there a number of other times as well, just sort of videoing. And they have it, both of them have a tendency to be somewhat mouthy. Not that I may not have that same tendency, but they like to initiate it themselves. And, I've never had a very cordial relationship with either of those two. Now, in fact, I would, say I don't like them.
Now, when Lindsay Fulton first approached you in this videotape, did you see the papers that she had in her hand?
I didn't at first.
You made a statement on the videotape, listen, you come within 10 feet of me and you guys are going to get killed. Were you addressing both Lindsay Fulton and her husband Greg Fulton at that time?
Yes, I was.
And did you in fact mean that you were going to use deadly force against them to lead to their untimely demise? What did you mean by that statement?
I meant that, that I thought if they came within 10 feet of me like that, that Judge Pennick was going to kill them.
Did you do anything at all that day with the intent to either hurt or cause harm to either Greg Fulton or Lindsay Fulton?
No.
Was Lindsay Fulton able to get the papers through the door before it closed?
She did.
And did you pick up the papers in your hand?
I did.
So was Lindsay Fulton right when she said on the videotape he has been served?
There was no doubt in my mind that I had been served.
Now, the video...
Hold on, time out, Mr. Okay, thank you, sir, for your patience. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, you said that there was no doubt in your mind that she succeeded in inserting the papers on you. You, in fact, had the papers in your hand, didn't you?
Yes.
And the video shows that you threw these papers on the sidewalk. What was your reason for doing that?
Well, it was to show complete disgust at the way these things, this organization gets their nasty process servers to serve papers on you.
Were you trying to throw the papers at Lindsay Colt?
No.
At the time of this incident on January 5th, did you have an attorney representing you in this particular matter?
I did.
And who was that?
Yourself.
And did you see me appear for you in court in this matter on occasion prior to January 5th, 2001?
Yes, I have.
Do you know of any agreement or arrangement at that time that I was not to accept any pleading for papers on your behalf in this matter?
No, I don't.
Stop right there just a minute. Mr. Minton, you made a statement earlier. You said that you considered yourself served. What documents were you served with?
Your Honor, I never picked those documents up out of the street.
So you don't know whether they were a copy of the injunction or a petition, an order to show cause or anything like that?
The only thing that I did see is there was a check from Moxon and Colbert. The edge of it, you can see Moxon and Colbert on it. It was, disjointed from the papers.
So you don't know if it was a subpoena to appear for deposition in the wrongful death case or anything like that?
I'm sure it had to do with that case.
Because it had a check. In other words, you're telling me that with the check attached, you felt it had to do with the subpoena probably?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor, for the information, the court asked the court to take notice of the notice of service of subpoena filed in the court file shortly after January 5th. I believe the file dates January 8th.
Okay, now January 5th of 2001 was the day of this event, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ian, would you come try and find that for me, please, sir?
Your Honor, for the benefit of the court,
Probably file somewhere
There
around
is-
January 6th or 7th.
there is an attachment referred to as attachment A to the return of service.
Let's pause until we find that. I want that out of the official court file. Let's just pause till I have it.
Your Honor, I am certain one other thing that was included in that package, which was subsequently told my attorney in that case. That was a subpoena in the case of Ursula Caberta. Somebody named Heller here in Florida, when Mrs. Caberta was in town, was sued by him, and Moxon represents him as well.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm not following you. Ursula Caberta was the lady from Germany,
Correct.
and she's involved in a suit here in Florida?
Well, when she was here, Mr. Moxon's office had a legal case served on her by a son.
Who's Mr. Moxon?
Ken, unindicted co-conspirator Moxon, who was Miss Scoburn's law partner.
Excuse me, Your Honor, that unindicted co-conspirator bit was just a gratuitous insult that ought to be stricken from the record.
Your Honor, Mr. Moxon has been identified by that label in the course of these proceedings, and I think the assistant court is identifying.
All right, well, let me, regardless of whatever labels, I'm not sure I'm following things here. Spell that name for me.
M-O-X-O-N.
Okay.
Kendrick is his first
What's
name.
the first name?
Kendrick. He's a California attorney who is a law partner of Mrs. Coburn. Here in the Clearwater, Florida.
All right, and he had papers served on Ursula, is that what you're telling me?
Ursula Coberta, when she was in Clearwater, I think it was July.
How's Coberta spelled?
C-A-B-E-R-T-A.
C-A-B-E-R-T-A.
Right. And I believe the plaintiff in the case is a man named Heller. Heller versus Coberta. And included in those documents that Mrs. Colton served on me. I subsequently found out from my attorney in that case, named Dan Lightbolt, that service had been alleged to contain those papers as well.
Okay, but at least some of the documents that this Coburn, or excuse me, I'm sorry, what's her name? Colton was trying to serve on you had to do with stuff that Mr. Howie was representing you?
No. He was,
What I'm driving at, or what I'm trying to establish here was there a necessity to serve you on the street? There's certain type of documents that they're more appropriately served on the person, the actual person, rather than serving them as professional attorneys do, attorney to attorney. Okay? So I'm just trying to establish that those were the type of documents, or what was the necessity for the incident to even begin with. And if you didn't really look at the documents, you may have a problem clarifying this, but Mr. Howie was trying to make the point that he represented you, at least in this matter, and I know Mr. Howie's been an attorney of record on your behalf for over a year in this case. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And I was just trying to understand what might or might not have been served on you. Now, what I would like is for silence here a minute till the staff attorney can show me what's in the court file.
Notwithstanding the court's
And silence means hush. Please, Bruce, just a minute. Just let me look. You've already told me what to look for. Let's see what he finds.